I want to give you some insight into my real time. I am literally making a TikTok replying to a comment right now while I'm filming this video. Life is so crazy. Hi, I'm Layla and welcome to my first YouTube video ever. I was gonna make my first YouTube video, the SNL standby line, but that'll be the next video because this, in my opinion, is 10 times more important. So since my content is primarily NYU content, I thought that it'd be fitting for my first video to be answering burning questions that prospective students, people who are interested in coming to NYU, have. So I posted on TikTok asking, what are the burning questions that you want to know about this university? And I had some questions, some comments, concerns, a little sprinkle of things in there, and I'm going to answer the majority of what I can answer today. So let's get started! So I have my phone right here with my little cherry case, and I have all the comments pulled up because I do not want to ruin this. I want to make sure that everyone has a fair playing field on my little questionnaire. Someone asked, is it actually a good school? How are the classes? Will you find yourself being overwhelmed easily? Okay, let me tell you. That is such a good question. I personally like the professors. I've had some where I'm like, oh, maybe you shouldn't be teaching, but for the majority, a lot of them are experts in their field. They know what they're talking about, and I like the school because the classes are only an hour and 15 minutes, 2 days a week, 3 if you're taking a language, and it is so easy, so simple. You're not stuck in a classroom for 4 hours, or like 2 hours. It's so nice. It's so nice. On top of that, a lot of main core classes have recitations where you go and you relearn the material that you learned in lecture that week or previous week, and it's a lot good of a vibe. It's a really nice school in academics, but we also have a huge alumni network. A lot of people go to career fairs and meet alumni, and they work for NBC, Paramount, Disney, or they work at these big law firms, or Chobani. My friend Elia literally just got an internship at Chobani, the yogurt, and it's a really good place to network and interact because our alumni is just so high in status. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say that I got straight A's my freshman year. I had straight B's one semester. Like, what I mean by that is I had 1 A, a B+, and 2 B's. And that kind of threw me in for a loop because I wasn't really in college like that. Like, I knew I would survive college, but I didn't really understand how rigorous the curriculum would be, in the sense that the majority of my grades relied on tests. There's like no homework. I barely have homework. If ever, it's primarily exams, so when exam seasons come, I'm so stressed out and overwhelmed. But not to the point where I'm like breaking down, crying. It's just, if you don't be like me and take on 2 internships, classes, and be involved in school, because that is a lot of work in and of itself. Please manage your time and learn how to say no, but I didn't know how to do that. So I'm personally overwhelmed in that aspect, but if it's just courses, I think they're very manageable. But I am a politics major, which is in humanities, so that might change my whole perspective of things. I find it so funny that we're already getting on the bangers, but we're gonna go to one of the most liked comments. It says, do they take into account what kind of school you come from? So this person goes to a prestigious boarding school, so my academic abilities are a bit more limited in terms of AP and honors classes. Well, let me tell you, I have the exact same situation. If you know me in real life, I've always talked about how my graduating class was only 40 kids. I went to a small private school that offered 1, 2 APs, a couple dual enrollments, but not anything major and not anything that would really boost my GPA in the way I wanted to. Nothing really that appeased my interest. So I was very lost, to say the least. So I had to take a lot of classes at my local community college that helped boost my GPA. But if that answers your question in any way, I would like to think no. But you can also, in the comment app, there's a section where it's like, do you want your university to take anything into consideration? And I put in the comments, I went to a small school and I did not have as many opportunities as people who go to big public schools, big feeder schools have. And I think that helped a little bit because it showed that I tried to be in as much involved in my school as possible, but showed that even with my involvement, that did not influence anything. Like, that didn't really help up my grades, help up my extracurriculars. It was just more like I dealt with what I had and I'm showing it to you and presenting it on a silver platter, and please accept me. And it worked. So if you want to put that into your little, like, do you want your university to know anything? Like, do you have any comments? Please put that. Please put that you don't have as many opportunities as the next person, and they will take it into consideration. With that same mindset, someone asked, does it matter if you're top 10 of your class if your class is like 800 plus students? And someone commented, yes, duh, what kind of question is that? And let me tell you, no, it doesn't matter. And here's my reasoning behind this. If your class is 1,000 kids and you are 20 out of 1,000, that's baller numbers. That is amazing stats. I was 8 out of 40, which in hindsight isn't even the top 10% of my class. I wasn't even in the 10% of my school, and I got in. You being the top 10 out of 1,000 kids, honestly, you should be aiming for the Ivy Leagues. That is a great accomplishment. You should give your pat on the back. I think what really matters that NYU wants to see is leadership. I had a lot of leadership things in my application. Like, I look back on it and the way that I phrased it, I was a leader in almost every single thing that I did, which really helped. But I've seen people with like 3.9 GPAs, 3.7s, 3.8s get into NYU. So it really just depends on what major you want and what you're trying to achieve while coming here. So that, I wouldn't say being you have to be top 10. I think it definitely helps, and I think if you're top 10 with 1,000 students, you should definitely shoot higher. But I would say it doesn't matter as much as you think it matters. Your class rank doesn't matter as much as you'd like it to. I had a lot of people ask me if I recommend EDing to NYU. And as a product of ED2, I 100% recommend applying early decision to NYU. They have ED1 and ED2, but their ED is binding. So if you apply and you get accepted, you have to come here, unless you can't come here for a couple reasons, like financial based need, different things like that, like they don't give you enough money, something really tragic happens in your life and you can no longer attend college. But it's a legally binding contract, and they call your advisor and make sure that you know that this is legally binding, and if they take you, you're coming. So I recommend applying ED2. I got in with ED2 and I got into the honors program at CAS, and I was not waitlisted at all. I got really in, but I 100% recommend it. I know a lot of people who got in through early decision. One of my friends, Elia, who I mentioned, who has Chobani, love her, she also did ED2, and we talk, and she's also in the honors program here. She was also much more academically inclined than me, and so if that helps the narrative in any way, shape, or form, I recommend applying ED to NYU if you know for certain that this is the college that you want to be at. The main question that everyone ever has when coming to NYU is if it's hard to make friends here. I only have one comment on this, but I have done multiple videos on TikTok where people are like, how difficult it is to make friends. Like, there's no campus, there's no city, like, what's gonna happen? Let me hold your hand when I say this. You'll be okay. I am currently rooming with one of my closest friends who I met in class. I met at my first semester, my first year here at NYU, writing the essay, which is now writing as inquiry, which I think is interesting, but writing the essay is where I met her, and we sat next to each other and we bonded so well. We became so close that she is now living next to me. Literally, like, this is her bed, which will not be shown. But I met my great friend Elia through Snapchat. I highly recommend the NYU pages, which is so crazy. But if I didn't talk to Elliot on Snapchat, we would not be friends at all. Or we would be. I believe that we would be friends, but we would not be as close as we are because we ended up talking on Snapchat, was in the same cohort, in the same major, in the same program, and it just all kind of somehow came together and vibed so well. I met Carly through my cohort. I met Emma through Carly. I have Danny, who's Annie's friend, who I met through her. Emerson, oh my gosh, Emerson. I met her at a going away thing for NYU in Los Angeles, and we just stayed connected ever since, and I love her to death. That shows the variety of things you can do to meet friends. It is difficult if you don't put yourself out there. If you don't put yourself out there, you will not make friends, okay? I've seen it firsthand of people feeling so alone and so lost to the point where they transfer NYU out of NYU into somewhere else. And you just have to be active and involved. And if you're an introvert, because I'm an introvert, I'm always in my room like 24/7, but I try my best when I'm in class to talk to people and get to know everyone to an extent. And if you really put yourself out there, you will make friends and you will have the best time of your entire life. I promise. Someone asked, is there a lot of commuters and what are they looking for? There are a handful of commuters. We have 2 commuter lounges, so that really puts it into perspective. I'm realizing that a lot of people who live in New York that I come across end up living in the dorms, which is very interesting in my opinion, in the sense that some of them live like in Brooklyn and they're dorming. But I do personally always recommend, if you go to college, if you are able, dorm your first year. That is where you meet the majority of the people that you will end up hanging out with, and you don't have to go home at a certain time. You're not worried about buses delaying or you not being able to go home. You can just go out and live freely and have a great grand time. So there is a handful of commuters here. I've met a couple. I've actually met a lot of commuters, and I've met people who go home often. So there is a lot of commuters. What are they looking for? NYU, in my opinion, is always looking for leadership or a theme. You wanting community at NYU should be a heavy theme that on your application. I made that my main focus, saying that I just really want community within NYU. I came from a really small school, and to be able to meet so many people would be a blessing, and that's what I did. So that's the advice I can give. If you're waitlisted, what good are your chances? Great! You have great chances. I always reference my friends when I talk about anything that I do, and Annie was on the wait list, and she was originally she committed to Fordham, she paid her deposit, and literally right after she paid her deposit, she got that notification that her portal was updated and she got accepted into NYU in CAS as a journalism major, and that was crazy. I also met people in my cohorts who were waitlist and got in. It really just depends on what they want and how many people drop. A lot of people do drop NYU when they get that decision because they don't have enough financial aid and it's way too expensive for them to come. So I think there is a possibility of getting on the wait list. It's slim, but never zero. I'm having so much fun answering these. I love answering people's questions. How good is their financial aid? Okay, let me tell you. I am a financial aid student, and I have almost a full ride in the sense that I pay $7,000 a semester, which is cheaper than going to a state school for me personally. If your family income is under $100,000 a year, you will get free tuition. NYU has this thing called NYU Promise that Linda Mills signed in, where you can get your whole tuition, not board, just tuition paid, and you just have to pay for board and food, which is nice. Tuition is the majority of what you pay, and housing's like from $8,000 to $12,000 a semester depending on the room that you get. So it really depends. I wouldn't say that they're stingy with financial aid. I would say that their financial aid is very much on a need basis. They don't give out academic scholarships like that. It's more if you really need that. I know some people who sought out external financial aid, and that's how they're paying for college. Some people take out loans, but on the financial aid like FAFSA spectrum, you have to do FAFSA and this one other thing. If I remember it, I'll put it like in text on the screen, but you fill that out, and depending on how much money you make depends on how much money they will give you. So do with that what you may. Do you feel that being in the city brings some disconnect and overwhelming feelings? And what does the transition from high school to a school like NYU truly feel like? There is a bit of a disconnect in the sense that it is not a traditional college experience. It will never be a traditional college experience. That's what the school's marketed as, and I understood that coming in here. I understood that I would not be able to see like frat row. I wouldn't have a big campus with walls with everyone and their mom being an NYU student walking the streets. I understood that from the very beginning. I knew I wasn't gonna have football games. I knew I wasn't gonna have a homecoming. I knew all of that going in here. I wouldn't say there's like a big disconnect. It doesn't feel lonely. A lot of people have the misconception that since NYU doesn't have a campus, that all the buildings are scattered everywhere throughout the city and you will never see anyone twice. That is not true. All of our classes are in Washington Square Park area, meaning that we have a campus. There's just no walls. It's literally just Waverly, that little circle, and then go back around. And then there's a couple buildings scattered throughout the city, but it is very rare that you will ever have class in there. So there is a campus feeling. You will see a bunch of students at one time in one place. I run into the same 5 people every single day. It is not new. I see people that I know on the street all the time. And there's a disconnect in the sense that you don't have that traditional college experience there. You won't be able to relate to your friends as much who go to state schools, who are able to do those big things, than coming to NYU, because we are a heavy academic college. So there's a disconnect in that sense. And my transition from high school to NYU was an interesting experience, to say the least. I came from a school of 40 students in my graduating class that I grew up with since I was 4 years old, which is crazy to think about and really hard to understand unless you are in that situation. I left my family, my boyfriend, and everyone that I ever knew and ever loved, and came out into this big city from Los Angeles, California, which is also a big city, but I lived in the suburbs, so it wasn't as big. But I left my little California home and came to New York City. My parents dropped me off, and I had to go explore the world on my own. It was a rough transition in the sense that I didn't really know what to do with myself. It was the first time that I had ever been on my own and independent, not knowing anyone at all. I feel like I am still finding myself. I'm always finding myself, but I think that is with every college experience. You will always be finding yourself. But I love the city. I love going to college in a city because I feel connected with the people around me, which is crazy to say at all, that you are connected with the strangers around you. But I feel so connected and so drawn to the people around me. It's so crazy. Also, I love Sweetgreen now. I go to Sweetgreen all the time, which I would not have figured out if I didn't go out into the city and eat some food and figure it out. I love late night television now, which I would not have figured out if I didn't go and try to camp out for SNL and go figure out One Iota and go to Jimmy Fallon. Or my love for Broadway was always there since I was 12, but to be able to see a Broadway show with my eyes, knowing that I wanted that for years, crazy experience. I wouldn't say the transition was hard. I had a very unique transition coming into here because a lot of things happened when I first came to college, and my roommate situation my freshman year was horrible. That's a video for another day, but I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it wasn't like really difficult, but it was definitely something getting used to, and you will get used to it. We are scrolling down these comments. Someone said coming from Miami isn't hard. My life is gonna completely change. Wear a jacket. That's my number one advice, actually. Bring a jacket. Bring puffer jackets. Your life will not completely change. I will say that you will grow into a different person. I am definitely a different person than I was 2 years ago. I just feel different. I don't know, like I feel so different. Your life won't completely change, but it will be a nice change. The change that you have will be nice. Also, this question, how are the dorms? Is there a lot of break-ins? So we do have campus security. So actually, no one breaks into dorms. No one breaks in the sense that you're not like having like a random guy knock on your door asking you what you're doing. But we have security guards at the front of each dorm because it's in the city. So no one can just like walk in. Plus you have to scan your card to get into the dorm anyways, which is a whole process in of itself. We did have an incident last year where a guy hopped the 3rd North turnstile like naked, but I will say now they made the turnstiles taller, so it's really hard to jump them. But no, the dorms aren't scary. My dorm now is really small and cozy. They have apartment style dorms, they have studios, which is what I'm in now, but I had an apartment style last year with a kitchen that was kind of small, but there's a kitchen here as well. So does that really change anything? You can see in the back there's a kitchen. Every dorm has their own bathroom. There is no communal bathrooms, which I love. I went to visit a friend in college and they had communal bathrooms and I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry. It was so sad. I was like, I can't do this anymore. But every dorm has their own bathroom, which is really nice. They're scattered throughout the city. This is one of the closest upperclassmen dorms. This is only 10 minutes away from campus. A lot of the dorms are in Union Square, and our farthest dorms are Gramercy and Lafayette, which are like a mile away from campus. But the dorms are fairly nice depending on which one you choose. This one's cozy, to say the least. Very cozy, but it's still nice and it's still grand, and the dorms are good for what you have. So, and it's very hard to get a single. Only 3% of the rooms that they offer are singles, so be prepared to be with a roommate. Someone asked, what's the nightlife? Are there a lot of parties or do people just go out to bars and stuff? So we have Greek life. Although only 3% of our school does Greek life, we do have it. We also have a lot of suspended fraternities, which is not something I should be saying, but I'm gonna say it anyways. The frats do throw. They throw in little apartments all the time, and they rent out venues and bars, and they have little parties there. But yes, a lot of people who do nightlife go to bars and clubs. I personally don't go to bars and clubs. I also don't do nightlife. So that is an issue in and of itself. But yes, a lot of people do go to bars and they go to clubs, and that's your nightlife. If you're really interested in going out and going to parties, you could definitely look them up. I am not the best source of information, but coming from an external experience from other people, I mean, there is nightlife here, and it is very prominent. Now we're gonna end on a happy note. Everyone asked, what was my stats? And I have a TikTok video on this, what my stats were. I literally downloaded the Common App application, my PDF, and had it on my computer and read it out loud. So I'm gonna find it, and then I'm gonna recite exactly what I said on here to you. This is actually your sign not to post 5 times a day, because I have to scroll through all of these to find my TikTok that I made in January. Stats! I was 8 out of 38 kids in my class. I had a weighted GPA of a 4.11. I finished with a 4.13. My unweighted GPA was a 3.92. I took the SAT. I got a 1200 on it and didn't submit it. So I went test optional. I founded the speech and debate club at my school and made it a national honors. I went through that whole process and I was founder and president. I was a 2-year varsity girls basketball captain, which was something that I did for my whole high school career. and I grew out of love with it very quickly. I ended up not liking it anymore, and it is something I will not do to this day. Yeah, my senior year was rough. I took yearbook in high school, and I just put leader of the yearbook committee because we didn't have titles, so I gave myself a title. But the teacher also said I was a leader, so I was just milking it, actually. I tutored children in math. I tutored them for 2 years, from 10th to 12th grade. I did specifically Algebra 1 and pre-algebra and elementary. I did not go above Algebra 1 because I sucked at geometry, and Algebra 2, I did not remember it. My senior year, I became secretary of the whole student body. My boyfriend, Akira, was the president, and we did a dual campaign. We said, if you're gonna vote for him, you also gonna vote for me, and everyone did. I was an entrepreneur for my Depop business. That was on my application. I also put my membership in a bunch of clubs, some that come to mind: Key Club, Moy Alpha Theta, the Science Club. It was a vibe, and that was it. Yep, I didn't cure cancer. I didn't find a non-profit organization. I was just very involved in school and worked. So yeah, that was my stats. I know you probably thought I had like a 4.5 GPA saving some whales, and I am so sorry to disappoint, but I hope that proves that even average people like me can get into college. I hope you enjoyed the YouTube video of me answering some of your very intriguing and amazing questions, might I add. Giving a round of applause. But if you ever want to have any more questions answered, want a vlog of the day in my life here, want to know what I do in the city, please comment below and subscribe for more content from me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!